Thank you, Lawrence, and good morning, everyone. So I've been asked and invited by King to talk about my story, career path, and key lessons learned. Every time people ask me to talk about my career, I usually ask them, how much time are you going to give me? Because first of all, it's already almost 30 years since I started working, and I've taken a pretty convoluted path in terms of my career building. So I was told I have 10 minutes, I better get started. So first of all, my career, my story, pretty similar to a lot of you. I was born and bred in Hong Kong, did most of my education in Hong Kong. I graduated from the Hong Kong U Law School in 1991 with an LLB and then 1992 with a PCLL. And then I decided that I didn't want to start working right away. So what I did was I went to the United States and I did a year at Harvard Law and got my LLM there. Then, I have no more excuses. I had to start working. And so, naturally, because I have my law degrees, I joined a law firm, Deakins in Hong Kong, and started my traineeship. It was a 2-year traineeship, and, I learned a lot. Then I got a little restless. I thought, hey, I'm still very young. Why don't I try something else? Conveniently, when I was in the US, I got my New York bar, my law qualification. And so I joined a US firm. And I was very, very lucky that, they sent me to New York for a year. And so, I got to see a different economy, a different market. And then I got restless again. And I thought, hey, China is opening up. I, heard that my friends are traveling, into China, doing all sorts of business trips, frontline stuff, right? And so I decided to come back, and it was in the mid-90s. So you don't need to protect my age, Lawrence, I'm giving it away already. So I came back, did a few more years of law practice, and then in the year 2000, I got a very different opportunity. I was working on a deal for an investment bank, and it was really tough. I remember there was a stretch of maybe 6 days I didn't actually go home to sleep. I was, taking naps at the office. And so the banker said, well, this is a machine. We better hire her. It's good value for money. So they said, do you want to be an investment banker? And say, well, do I know how to be an investment banker? But then, they told me it's a 40% pay rise. I say, yes, of course, happy to do it. So I became an investment banker without really knowing what I've signed up to. Now, timing was terrible. It was in the summer of the year 2000. I was supposed, to be covering the Asian market, doing deals, but the internet bubble just bursted on me, right? So by the time I started my career as an investment banker, unfortunately, there were no deals to be done. And I remember at the time, the only market with any deals, it's Taiwan, because they have a semiconductor industry and they are still sort of, raising capital to fund the upgrading, of the technology. And so I started commuting between Hong Kong and Taiwan for 3 years. I remember there was 1 year I did about 160 trips to Taiwan in 1 year. But it was okay. I was young at the time. But, things turned from bad to worse. And by 2003, SARS hit. So, the only market with any deals to be done, Taiwan, no longer turning out deals. So as a result, I have to admit defeat. I left investment banking proper, and I was offered a job at Morgan Stanley to be an in-house counsel covering capital markets. So I thought, good compromise, right? I can do a bit of, legal practice, but in a investment banking setting. Perfect. So I joined. And that's when the market picked up again. And I was covering the entire Asia. And the definition of Asia is everything from Australia to India, I remember. And so it was pretty tough because, I have to wake up, 3 hours ahead of everybody because that's the Australian time zone. And 2.5 hours, I have to end my day 2.5 hours after everyone, because that's the Indian time zone, plus headquarters in New York. So I have to stay up for the conference calls, and there was no Zoom at the time. And so I thought, well, it's very rewarding. I learned a lot, but look, life is tough. It's basically around the clock. And I did that for another 3 years until one day another opportunity presents itself. I got a call from a headhunter and they said, hey, the stock exchange is looking for the head of IPO. Do you want to be a regulator? My immediate reaction, over my dead body. Because, I was thinking regulator, it sounds so boring, right? What do? They write regulations? Then, I met the headhunter. She gave me more information. I met the head of listing at the time, Richard Williams, and the conversation went well. So again, taking a leap of faith, I joined the stock exchange for the first time. And it was really a lot of fun, right? I was vetting IPOs, I was giving people approval, recommendations, and I was actually writing new chapters in the listing rules. That's cool stuff. And I did that for 3 years. You guys are seeing a pattern now. Every 3 years, I want to do something else. Then, in the year 2010, I was offered something, another opportunity, yet another opportunity. It was a law firm, Davis Polk. They were trying to start a Hong Kong practice, Hong Kong law practice. And they asked me, do you want to do it? And my immediate reaction is, do I know how to do it? I mean, when I left law back in year 2000, I assumed I will never be practicing law again. But then they said, hey, this is, you're the perfect person to do it. And then, I think eventually the curiosity prevailed and I jumped on it. And this time I didn't do it for 3 years. I did it for 3 times 3 years. So I spent 9 years. I built up a practice for them from scratch, hired a lot of people. The firm grew from 30 lawyers to 100 lawyers when I left. So, it was very, very satisfying. And then, last year in January, I came back to the stock exchange and I became head of listing. So, this time I don't have to vet cases, but, I have a much bigger portfolio. And I continue to write a lot of new chapters, the latest one being SPACs, as some of you might have heard. Okay, so, that took about 2.5 minutes to go through my career. I better, get on with, the key lessons learned. Now, when I think about the key lessons, I was preparing for this speech, and I reflected on the 30 years career I've had so far. Then it brought back memories of a book I read 30 years ago exactly, when I was about your age, for the students dialing in. And I thought, that book taught me everything that I need for my career. And in fact, the title of the book is All I Really Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. All right, and I'll go through it very quickly. So, disclaimer, I'm not going to give you any silver bullets. I'm not going to dish out any practical tips. But, I'm going to tell you that you really already have the skills you need for your career. And what are they? All right, so this is the list. This is not my list. This is the list of the author, Robert Foam. And there are 16 points. And I'm going to show you, and then I'll summarize it into 5 key lessons. So I'm not going to recite them, but, take them in. This is what they learn. I don't know what, kindergartens teach these days, but essentially these are the things. Okay, so let me summarize. First lesson, build and protect your reputation, right? So, don't take these points literally, please, right? It's metaphorically. Share everything, play fair, don't hit people, put things back where you find them, clean up your own mess, and don't take things that aren't yours. Say sorry when you hurt somebody. Okay, what's the relevance? I think it is really about, how you build your personal brand in career, building up your work ethics, taking ownership, assuming responsibility. And I have one big important message for you, is that with your career, your reputation is your biggest asset. And on the flip side, if you have a bad reputation, that's your biggest liability. And, other than, building your personal brand, I do want to sort of recommend that everyone think about, how you become a go-to person for at least one thing, right, in your career, especially when you're starting. You want people, right, your colleagues, your boss, to recognize for something, to recognize you for something, right? If they have this particular thing they want to do, they'll immediately go to you. You're the absolute go-to person. That allows you to really build your personal brand and protect your brand, okay? Your reputation will last your entire career. So that's very important. Second lesson, expect surprises, bad or good, okay? So here there are the 2 points. Be aware of wonder. Remember the little seeds in the styrofoam cup, the roots go down, plants go up. Nobody really know why, but we all like that. And then, the second one is a little grim. But what I want to say is, I think these days, everyone tends to want to only do things when they are 100% prepared, right? You're always, your parents prepare you when you're at school, you get a medal for doing anything, right? Well, I want to tell you, you will never be fully prepared in career, right? And you should expect the surprises. For example, in my career, I don't know how many downturns and financial crises I've seen. You just learn to cope, and you learn to fail. You learn to deal with failures and setbacks, and that's how you grow stronger. And when I say good surprises, these days, oftentimes, when I offer an opportunity, to someone in my staff, sometimes they push back. They say, "Boss, I'm not really sure I know how to do it." And I say, well, but this is a great opportunity, right? You don't need to be 100% prepared. And so I do want people to, all of you to have an open mind, embrace the surprises, whether they are good or bad, take the opportunity. And, in my example, oftentimes it's about taking that leap of faith. Third thing, stay curious and don't stop learning. Okay, so this one says, remember the Dick and Jane books. I don't know the Hong Kong equivalent to Dick and Jane books, but the first word you always learn is look, right? Take a look at things, right? Figure it out. Don't be confined by the fear of failing, right? Sometimes the fear of failing creates a very small comfort zone. And it's worked for me. I always want to, figure things out. And in this regard, I also want to sort of share some observation. I think, at least, in my network, most of the leaders in organization, there's one thing in common. A lot of them has been posted in a foreign office during their career. And being posted in a foreign office is actually a big undertaking, right? You're going to foreign places, you need to build things from scratch, you need to build a new network. But if you stay curious and you don't stop learning, you can do it. And that places you in a very, very compelling position in your future career advancement. All right, next one. Make friends along the way, right? When you go out into the world, watch for traffic, hold hands, and stick together. Now, building a network is very, very important. I've made a lot of friends in, the different places that I've worked at. And a lot of the colleagues, when I met them, 30, 25 years ago, they're very junior. They're now occupying extremely powerful positions in their respective organizations. And they are great help, in terms of, me bouncing off ideas, getting things to work, right, or starting a project, drawing resources. So I do suggest that you make friends along the way. And the flip side, obviously, don't make enemies along the way as much as you can avoid that. Last one. I don't think I can end any career talk without talking about work-life balance. Now, here there are 3 points. I'll start with the second one. Live a balanced life. Learn some, drink some, draw some, paint some, sing and dance and play and work every day. Now, I think this work-life balance term has been so misunderstood. Because most of the time when people think of balance, there's an image in their mind, it's a scale, right? And it's sort of like, balance, meaning it's 50% here, 50% there, it's equal weight. It is not like that. Balance is something like, to me, it's like cooking a dish. It's very balanced, right? That's what Jamie Oliver said all the time. What does that mean? It doesn't mean, you have equal portions of salt and sugar and, everything. And everyone has a different idea of balance, and you should not feel that, if I don't play as hard as the next person, then I have no balance. Figure out what works with you. And the other thing I want to say is, it's not a static thing, right? We achieve work-life balance over a very long time horizon. So in my example, I think I worked extremely, extremely hard in the initial sort of, 10, 15 years in my career. Now, and I earned the liberty to do more things outside of work now that, I'm in my third decade, in the third decade of my career. So, think about work-life balance with a longer time horizon. That gives you more latitude and more freedom. And, the other 2 points here, warm cookies and cold milk and take a nap every afternoon. I'm not suggesting literally that you take a nap every afternoon at work. It's about rewarding yourself, with cookies and cold milk and whatever, you fancy. That gives you the motivation and keeps it up. And taking a break, right? You do need to recharge yourself and not allow yourself to get burnt out too quickly. I know time is up, but to wrap up, I do want to sort of, take out my crystal ball and tell you what to expect. It's good news. First of all, you are in huge demand. I want to tell you that. The human capital situation in Hong Kong, I think, every person I've talked to in the last few weeks have been saying, we need to hire people, right? So you have a lot of opportunities ahead of you. You're in huge demand. And I do suggest that you pay a lot attention to a few areas. And in fact, in the upcoming panels, the two of them are talking about two up-and-coming themes. One is fintech, the other one is ESG. These are huge areas which will be taking or demanding a lot of talents. And I think, you should really have an open mind, see what is there to, for you to explore. And I'm sure you'll find a very fulfilling career in those areas and, in the broader financial services sector. So with that, I end my speech and I wish you every good luck in your career hunting. Thank you.